Okay, so you have built a sprite. You have built two sprite this morning, right? One is Stickman, the other is Sprite. So now I'm going to show you how is it when the user press on the fire buttons and the ball will keep rolling itself. Roll, right? So the final product is that you will create a sprite. The extending the sprite is called a ball sprite. It has two additional methods. One is to check whether the ball is kicked. The other is that to define the movement of the ball. So let's begin. Right, this is your originals. Original code control Stickman's game canvas. Right, you have two. Now you have to think that is that right, which sprite has additional functions. Right, in this case it's a ball sprite, so we will first define a new sprite, right? Because the ball we need to roll it, we need it to check changing. So now what you do is that go to default package, click new, click Java class, and call it a ball sprite, and click finish. And over here, the ball sprite is extending a sprite. So we need to import this class as well. Click on this, add import. So since you are extending this sprite, they force you to create a constructors, right? You need a constructor, so we will type a constructor with the same class name, and also you need to call the super constructor, the parent class constructor. Right, all these are the same. Later I'll talk about this. I'm passing these parameters into the super constructor as well. So the image we don't have, so we just import this class. Wait for a while. Yeah, take a sweet. Right. Wait for a while. Okay, so let's close the others. So I need to import this class. So now we have two classes here. Now the ball sprite is going to be very similar to the original sprite, except that we have two extra methods. So now instead of creating a ball sprite based on the pure sprite, now we call it ball sprite. So now ball sprite is a reference of ball sprite instead of just a sprite. Right, you see the change? So when you call the ball sprite, you pass in three parameters. So you pass into these parameters. So the image represents you can see that the ball sprite, the first parameters is represents image. See, this is the constructors, and the second parameters represent the ball width. So we're passing the width to the super constructor of ball sprite, which is sprites constructors. The height is the ball height. So far there's nothing new, nothing really difference. Now then we'll talk about a key state fire press. Better copy this. Now you also listen to when the user is pressing the fire buttons, right? So it's very similar to this. We just add one more conditions. So when the user is pressing the fire buttons, we say kick the ball, right? Set setting kick the ball. So we want to know that the ball is it kicked. So we want to set a state of the ball sprite, right? It's a state of the ball sprite. So come over here, there's a kick already, but not this. Okay, so over here we will insert a new state, right? These will keep track the state of a ball, whether it's kicked or not kicked. So at first the ball is not kicked, so it's not moving, right? So now if it's, we also want to define is that, okay, later. So now we say the balls, we set the ball sprite dot kick, set it to true. Now the ball sprite is kicked. So now next, now every time the screen is changing, we also check if a ball sprite is kicked, right? If the ball is kicked, right? If the ball is already kicked, I want it to move or to roll. So I will define this as another method. It's called roll, right? What roll does is that it will call this sprite and then move it, right? Move is the distance, right? Because it's only moved horizontally, so we will just define it to be we will just define the first parameter. The other, just leave it, because the ball won't go up and down at the moment. So the dx we can define here, distance between x-axis, right? Dx. So I come back here, right? If the ball sprite is kicked, we say that the ball sprite is now able to roll, and roll by 5 pixels every time. Every time the screen is updating, the ball is rolled again, and depends on whether the ball is already kicked. Right, now let's play. There's one more thing we need to change, but let's just play this once. So notice that we have a sprite. Now, as we define that, we will also check if the fire is pressed, right? if the fire is pressed, what we do is that we set the ball to be true. So let's click and the ball start rolling. See? Thank you. Thank you. Right, so it's kicking. So why is it keep rolling? Is that because at every time we draw the display, right? You see the draw display is actually keep in a run. So every time the screen is displaying, we draw the display or draw a new display. So again we check if is the ball is still kicking, right? If this ball is still kicking, we say roll. We roll, find distance. So then you go to another screen change, right? Screen, renew a screen, you roll again because the ball is still kicking. So you keep forever kick. Right? Once you set kick, you already kick. You kick outside the screen, right? It keep rolling. But there is one thing. If you notice that this red color, if I get kick, right, it's still moving themselves. It's not rolling. So how do we change that? Would you like to challenge yourself? Yeah, I leave it to you, right? So thank you for watching. Right, the source codes will be uploaded to J2ME lessons malaysians.blogspot.com in a short while. Thank you for watching. This is Ken Lau. I hope you learned something great about Sprite. 감사합니다.